Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the breakfast news on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. India decides to boycott upcoming Saarc Summit in Islamabad in the wake of the Uri attack. Pakistan calls development unfortunate. Pakistan says revocation of Indus Water Treaty will be treated as an act of war. This after Prime Minister holds review meeting on matter, meeting on Thursday to review most favoured nation status to Pakistan. India and Nigeria sign MOU on development of bilateral trade during Vice President's visit. Mohammad Hamid Ansari underscores need to synergize its growth strategies with Nigeria in the backdrop of global financial situation. And Karnataka Chief Minister convenes an all-party meeting to discuss and decide on Supreme Court order to release water to Tamil Nadu. Karnataka maintains drinking water is priority. Well, India and Nigeria signed an MOU on development of bilateral trade in the presence of Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari in Nigeria on Tuesday. Earlier in the day, Vice President Ansari called for cooperation in infrastructure development and energy security for both the countries. Here's more.
Underscoring the need for economic cooperation for development, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari on Tuesday said India and Nigeria should work together to synergize their growth strategies for positive economic growth. At the Nigeria-India Forum in capital Abuja, the Vice President called Nigeria an important partner for India's energy security requirement. India is the largest buyer of crude oil from the African nation, with more than 100 Indian companies importing about 12% of India's crude oil requirement.
There are significant potential for diversifying our engagement in oil and gas sectors by enhancing our cooperation in both upstream and downstream domains.
Ansari pitched for foreign investment opportunities in India, hailing India's initiatives like smart city projects and Digital India, along with 7% economic growth in the last quarter. The Vice President also emphasized on the need for expanding trade in the areas of automobiles, information technology, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology and healthcare sectors. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari welcomed the proposed investment of $5 billion in the Nigerian economy by India. India and Nigeria also signed an agreement to improve bilateral trade.
It is a matter of satisfaction that for the last few years, India has been the largest trading partner of Nigeria, and Nigeria is the largest trading partner of India in Africa. Our bilateral trade has been growing steadily for the last 1 decade and touched $16 billion in the year 2014-15.
On the second leg of his two-nation visit to Nigeria and Mali, Vice President will reach Mali on 29th of September for the first ever high-level visit at the invitation of the country's Prime Minister. Vice President Ansari arrived in Nigeria on Monday as part of efforts to bolster India's ties with the West African nations. This is Amrita Rai and Anu Diwan's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Pakistan has said that the revocation of the Indus Water Treaty will be taken as an act of war. Islamabad has also approached the World Bank after India's move to review the decades-old treaty. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a review meeting on Monday over the matter in which he stated that blood and water can't flow together.
Its revocation can be taken as an act of war or a hostile act against Pakistan. It is highly irresponsible on part of India to even consider revocation of the Indus Water Treaty. Unilateral revocation of IWT can pose a threat to Pakistan and its economy. This Indian act can be taken as a breach of international peace and hence giving Pakistan a good reason to approach the UN Security Council.
Pakistan reacting to India's move to review the Indus Water Treaty. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had chaired a high-level meeting on Monday to review the decades-old treaty in which he said blood and water can't flow together. Pakistan alleging the threats are a tactic by New Delhi to divert attention from the issues in Kashmir.
The provocative statements and actions from the Indian leadership to for considering unilateral revocation of the Indus Water Treaty are a blatant violation of international law and also constitute a breach of the Indus Water Treaty. Threats of water war are a part of a military, economic and diplomatic campaign to build pressure on Pakistan in the wake of our efforts to expose Indian savageries in the Indian-occupied Kashmir since July 8, 2016.
Pakistan also approaching the World Bank over the matter. A delegation of the Pakistan government, led by the Attorney General of Pakistan, Ashtar Oswali, met with senior officials of the World Bank at the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C. The World Bank had mediated the water sharing deal.
जंग हल नहीं है मसले का, ये ऐसी स्टेटमेंट्स देनी भी नहीं चाहिए कि ये जो इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी से हम पीछे निकल जाएंगे, क्या वो समझेंगे कि यहाँ पानी अगर बंद कर दिया तो लोग चुप करके बैठे रहेंगे? इसका बहुत बड़ा रिएक्शन आएगा.
Under the treaty, which was signed by then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and then Pakistani President Ayub Khan in September 1960, waters of 6 rivers, Beas, Ravi, Satluj, Indus, Chenab and Jhelum were to be shared between the two countries. The treaty provides specific design criteria for any hydroelectric power plants to be built by India. Pakistan has held the position that the Kishanganga and Ratle hydroelectric plants violate the design parameters of the treaty. There has been pressure in India to reconsider the treaty in the wake of the Uri attack. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, India has decided to boycott the Saarc Summit that is slated to be held in Islamabad in November. The decision is a fallout of the Uri terror attack and India's attempts to isolate Pakistan internationally over the issue of terrorism. Pakistan has called the development unfortunate. Here's more.
A big diplomatic fallout of the Uri attack. India decides to boycott the Saarc Summit, slated to be held in November this year in Islamabad.
In the prevailing circumstances, the government of India is unable to participate in the proposed summit in Islamabad.
India conveying its decision to the current Saarc chair Nepal, New Delhi stating one member country is responsible for creating an environment that is not conducive for successfully holding the summit. The 19th Saarc Summit is to be held from November 9 to 10.
India has conveyed to the current Saarc chair Nepal that increasing cross-border terrorist attacks in the region and growing interference in the internal affairs of member states by one country have created an environment that is not conducive to the successful holding of the 19th Saarc Summit in Islamabad in November 2016.
Pakistan terming India's decision unfortunate. The Pakistan Foreign Office spokesperson in a late-night statement blaming India for interfering in its internal matters. Islamabad also stating it remains committed to regional peace and cooperation. The developments coming on a day when Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar issued a second démarche in less than 10 days to Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit over the Uri attack. India confronting Pakistan with proof of cross-border origins of the attack in which 18 Indian Jawans were killed. India informing Pakistan that preliminary interrogation has revealed the identity of one of the slain attackers.
मेरा क्या कहना है कि बजाय इसके क्या भी कहना है, मैं नहीं जाऊंगा, आप पूरे सार्क मेंबर्स पे दबाव डालिए और पूरे सार्क मेंबर्स को इस बात के लिए तैयार करिए कि इस्लामाबाद का वेन्यू बदला जाए. सार्क नहीं खत्म करना, सार्क एक इम्पोर्टेंट फोरम है, लेकिन इस्लामाबाद जो में नहीं होना चाहिए, दूसरी जगह वेन्यू शिफ्ट किया जाए. ये उन्हें दबाव बनाना चाहिए. अगर उसमें भारत सफल होता तब मैं मानूं कि सरकार ने कुछ किया.
Reports coming in say Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Bhutan will be skipping the Saarc Summit to be held in Pakistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, India is also exerting pressure on Pakistan with the possibility of withdrawing the most favoured nation status to the neighbour. Now, to put this into effect, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called a meeting of top government officials on Thursday. If India revokes the MFN status given to Pakistan, it will mean diminished imports from that country.
Tightening the screws on Pakistan. A day after he reviewed the Indus Water Treaty, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for another high-level meeting on Thursday. This time to take a good hard look at the most favoured nation status granted to Pakistan. The high-level meeting will have top officials of the PMO, the MEA and the Commerce Ministry. India gave Pakistan the most favoured nation status in 1996. Pakistan did agree to reciprocate at a secretary-level agreement in 2012, but so far it has not kept its promise. Although experts say that even if India withdraws the status, the impact will be mainly symbolic, since bilateral trade between the neighbours represents only a fraction of India's overall goods trade.
If we scrap the MFN, which is part of our obligation under the WTO, it will affect Pakistani exports to India. because then India would be able to apply higher tariffs than what we do for other countries. Because MFN simply means that we give the same tariff treatment to all countries.
India has never reviewed any of these arrangements with Pakistan because India has always thought Pakistan a brother or a friend, and in order to increase the relationships among the Saarc countries, they gave unilaterally the MFN treatment to Pakistan. They also gave a very liberal agreement to Pakistan on under the World Bank auspices for Indus Water Treaty. And that was a long time ago in 1960. Immediately there was war in 65. There was war in 71. And generally under the law of treaties, the rule is that once the war takes place, then all the treaties are defunct. After that, everything has to be reviewed. We have never done that. So it is really a unilateral gesture which has been going on the part of India. So we have, for the first time, we feel that it should be necessary to review all these arrangements and see what will be in the interest of India, what will be the interest of the region, and what will be India's obligations to the international community.
Opposition parties, however, say withdrawing the MFN status might not be enough. The Congress is calling for imposition of economic sanctions as well on Pakistan.
We've heard a lot of speeches, rhetorics, meetings, visual of meetings and unofficial press briefings. What is the concrete action being taken against Prime Minister is what India wants to understand and know from the Prime Minister. We had pointed out on day one, 3 actions needs to be taken. Isolate Pakistan diplomatically, ensure economic sanctions come from countries which are financing Pakistan. Thirdly, ensure that there is a decisive, specific, precise and a proper and a fitting strategic response. Modi government has failed to do all 3.
The MFN status allows Pakistan give equal treatment in terms of trading prices or tariffs and market access without discrimination in imports and exports. But out of India's total merchandise trade of $641 billion in 2015-16, Pakistan accounted for a mere $2.67 billion. India's exports to the neighboring country worked out to $2.17 billion or 0.83% of the total Indian outward shipments, while imports were less than $500 million or just 0.13% of the total inward shipments.
Withdrawal of MFN status from Pakistan is not more than notional because Pakistan has little to sell to India. But it will be interesting to see how Prime Minister Narendra Modi assesses the situation if Pakistan retaliates by putting an embargo on Indian goods. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha television in Delhi.
Meanwhile, India and China on Tuesday held talks on enhancing cooperation on counter-terrorism as officials from both the countries met in their first high-level dialogue in Beijing. Now, the meeting comes 10 days after a terror attack at an army base in Jammu and Kashmir's Uri district in which 18 Indian soldiers were killed. The meeting was co-chaired by R.N. Ravi, chairman of the Joint Intelligence Committee, and Wang Yongqing, Secretary General of the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission of China. The two sides exchanged views on the international and regional security situation. They also shared information on respective policies, systems and legislation to deal with terrorism, further enhancing their understanding on issues of major concerns to both sides. Let's take a look now at what's likely to make news during the course of the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. President Pranab Mukherjee will pay obeisance at the Himalayan shrine of Kedarnath today. He was unable to visit the shrine on 2 previous occasions due to bad weather. President will also visit Haridwar on September 29 to witness its famous Ganga Aarti before leaving for Delhi the same evening. The Supreme Court will hear the Italian Marines case. On September 20th, the centre had told the Supreme Court that it did not object to Italian Marine Massimiliano Latorre, who is accused of killing 2 Indian fishermen in 2012, remaining in his country till an international tribunal decides which country will try the case. Earlier, the court asked the centre to file a formal response to Latorre's plea that sought a modification of his bail conditions. The Supreme Court will also hear pleas challenging the bail granted to RJD leader Mohammad Shahabuddin by the Patna High Court today. On September 19th, the Apex Court had sought a response from Shahabuddin on a separate plea filed by Chandrakeshwar Prasad, the father of 3 young men who were brutally killed by henchmen of the controversial politician in the murder case of their third son. The Apex Court will also hear a separate plea filed by the widow of journalist Rajdev Ranjan, who was murdered in Siwan allegedly at the instance of Shahabuddin seeking transfer of the case to Delhi. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Gyan Chopper is the ancient version of Indian snakes and ladders. This intriguing game was popular among the old, the young, and the rulers as well. The chopper has its origin in the Jain philosophy. It tells the story of virtue, symbolized by the ladders, rewarded, while the vices shown by the snakes are punished. Each square, in turn, also narrates a message of wisdom.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Supreme Court on Tuesday asked Karnataka to release 6,000 cusecs of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu in the next 3 days, reserving his reaction to the Supreme Court directions. Karnataka Chief Minister said that he would consult legal experts and maintain that drinking water is the topmost priority.
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court sternly ordered Karnataka to release 6,000 cusecs of Kaveri water to neighbouring Tamil Nadu for the next 3 days. Reserving his reaction to the Supreme Court's direction, Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah said that he would consult legal experts, maintaining that drinking water is a priority. According to sources, the Chief Minister has convened a meeting of floor leaders of both the houses, MPs and legislators and district in charge ministers today to take stock of the fresh development.
I have to speak to my legal team and the technical experts and also other people. Without talking to them, it is not. ಇಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಹೋಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ಬೀದರ್ಗೆ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ I will talk to them.
In Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister Jayalalitha held a meeting with ministers and top officials at Chennai's Apollo Hospital, where she is admitted since last week. The meeting was to discuss her government's response to the ongoing dispute. She has now deputed the state's Public Works Department minister to attend a meeting on her behalf with Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah as ordered by the Supreme Court. The court has ordered the meeting by Friday.
Supreme Court has condemned the Karnataka government. The verdict of the Supreme Court should be respected. That is the message which we were also requesting.
Earlier, Karnataka continued to argue that it cannot release water. The government claims that its cities are in danger of running out of drinking water, while promising to spare water for Tamil Nadu only in December.
We appeal to the Supreme Court again, saying that it is not possible to comply with the order of the Supreme Court as there is no sufficient water.
This is a situation where the people of Karnataka are in huge distress. So that is why we have gone ahead with this modified petition, requesting them to modify their order, looking at the ground realities. And also we are saying that we will not, it's not that we are saying we will not release the water. We will, but give us an extension by the end of the season, because anyway there may be some more rains. As and when the rains come, by the end of the season, by December, we will release the required quota of water.
The division of the Kaveri water that originates in Karnataka but flows into Tamil Nadu has locked both states in a conflict for several decades. But the latest agitation began on 5th of September when the Supreme Court agreed that Tamil Nadu should get more water than it had been receiving so far to help its farmers. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some economic news now. Lauding the progress achieved so far on GST implementation, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Tuesday exuded confidence that it is reasonably possible to meet the April 1st deadline to roll out the new indirect tax regime. Now, noting that states have realized the importance of competitiveness and attracting investments, Jaitley said getting the GST through was troublesome as it involved completely changing the powers of the union and the states. The GST Council has the mandate to look into issues of dual control and threshold rates, with the states demanding that they be given the legal and administrative powers for imposing tax on entities with turnover of up to 1.5 crore rupees. The GST Council met on September 21st and 22nd and decided on many issues barring the rates, on which they will meet from October 17th and hope to finalize by November. The GST Council is chaired by Jaitley and has his junior in charge of revenue and state finance ministers as members. Meanwhile, the government is planning to introduce GST legislations, central GST and integrated GST in the winter session, beginning later November. Well, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Tuesday said that the amendments to the Prevention of Corruption Act will give more room to public servants, including banks officials, to take decisions confidentially. Now, he further said that the law which deals with accountability of public servants is in the final stages of its amending process. It's before the Standing Committee and hope in the next session it comes up. Now, the Prevention of Corruption Act of 1988, which constrains a lot of public servants and also banking, he said. Now, it will help them to take prompt action, especially on resolving stressed loans without fear of being punished for bona fide decisions. Jaitley, while addressing SBI's banking and economics conclave in Mumbai, said that a lack of decision-making and consensus is hampering banks. The Oversight Committee to vet non-performing assets sale decision would also aid banks in decision-making. Let's now get you a roundup of the other news from across the country in our segment Nationwide. In Navi Mumbai, office of the Shiv Sena mouthpiece Samna was allegedly stoned on Tuesday over a cartoon published in the Daily alluding to the silent marches being taken out by Maratha community across the state. Now, a pro-Maratha outfit, Sambhaji Brigade, claimed responsibility for the attack. It also demanded an apology from the Sena leaders. The police is investigating the incident. Hitting out at Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Tuesday alleged that the centre was targeting the country's small traders following the failure of its income declaration scheme. In his two-page letter to Prime Minister, Kejriwal claimed that the centre has failed to take action against black money holders and it is now targeting the country's small traders to complete the target under the scheme. Amidst the ongoing crackdown on NGOs, at least 744 more NGOs are on the government's watch list for alleged violation of Foreign Contribution Regulation Act rules. According to sources, there are about 33,000 NGOs registered under the FCRA and at least over 740 have been identified as having not complied with the provisions of the Act. Going on to some international news now. Now, it was the most watched presidential debate in history, which saw flamboyant Donald Trump forced on the defensive by Democratic rival Hillary Clinton for much of the 90-minute showdown at Hofstra University. Both with two more debates still to go and unpredictable nature of the 2016 campaign so far, pundits say Trump can still make a comeback ahead of the 8th November election.
I think Donald just criticized me for preparing for this debate. And yes, I did. And you know what else I prepared for? I prepared to be president. And I think that's a good thing.
One of the hotly contested moments of the first of the three US presidential television debates. The debate, watched by a record 84 million Americans at home, saw not only arguments on various policy issues, but was full of personal attacks as well.
She doesn't have the look, she doesn't have the stamina. I said she doesn't have the stamina, and I don't believe she does have the stamina. To be president of this country, you need tremendous stamina.
One of the worst things he said was about a woman in a beauty contest. He called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina.
A CNN poll taken after the debate found that 62% of the voters who had watched the head-to-head thought that Democratic Hillary Clinton came out on top, with just 27% giving it to Republican Donald Trump.
It was a clear win for Hillary Clinton, or perhaps a clear loss for Donald Trump may be the best way to put it. But the truth even arguing with the moderator when the moderator caught him on a falsehood that he was always against going into Iraq. He didn't have any grasp of policy or details. He showed himself to have a very thin temperament.
Worse for Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman was being seen as a bad loser after he accused moderator Lester Holt of being tougher on him and complained that his microphone was terrible and crackled, and that his volume was lower than Hillary's microphone.
I was a little bit upset that the microphone in the room wasn't working properly.
What do you mean?
The microphone in the room wasn't working.
Despite being much talked about all over the world, most of the Americans expressed discontent with the debate, saying that there was less emphasis on policy issues.
Again, some of their behavior is a bit childish, maybe unfounded, and I think they focus on minutia rather than really getting to answers on the key facts that we need to address.
The debate with 84 million viewers fell short of the 100 million viewers some had predicted, but broke the record of 80.6 million viewers who had tuned in for the 1980 presidential debate between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. This debate may have knocked Donald Trump sideways, but not out of the race for the White House. Experts say the unpredictable nature of 2016 race leaves much to be decided, with 2 more debates in October. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the US senators will cast their vote today to override President Barack Obama's veto of legislation on the Saudi 9/11 bill. The bill would allow the families of the victims of the September 11, 2001 attacks to sue the Saudi Arabian government. This is going to be the first action in an attempt by lawmakers to override Obama's September 23rd veto of the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act. A successful override requires the support from 2/3 of lawmakers in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, which are controlled by Republicans. In the 9/11 attack, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi nationals. Well, here's a roundup of the other international news in World Wrap. Suicide bombers have killed at least 17 people and wounded more than 50 in Shia areas of the Iraqi capital Baghdad. The Islamic State group said it carried out both the attacks. A bomber killed at least 8 people and wounded 29 in the Jadida district. At least 9 died and 30 were injured in another attack in the Baya area. Islamic State has intensified bomb attacks in government-held areas this year as it loses territory to US-backed Iraqi government forces and Iranian-backed Shiite militias. Well, the US has appointed its first ambassador to Cuba in 55 years as relations between the countries thaw. President Barack Obama said it was a step towards a more normal and productive relationship. The new ambassador, Jeffrey De Laurentiis, had been working at the new US embassy in Havana, which opened in July last year. President Obama and Cuba's President Raul Castro have begun to reignite the diplomatic relations that were broken off in 1961 after the Caribbean islands' communist revolution. Well, the US has pledged to provide $364 million in humanitarian aid to people affected by the war in Syria. The funds will help the UN and other charities provide food, safe water and medical care to those in the country and refugees in the region. Meanwhile, Syrian forces have made advances in the center of Aleppo after days of heavy airstrikes, and the World Health Organization has called for safe evacuation routes out of the city for the injured and sick. Well, the Sri Lankan police has exhumed the body of a prominent newspaper editor as part of a new investigation into his murder. Lasantha Vikramatunge was the editor of the Sunday Leader, which was critical of then-President Mahinda Rajapakse. He said before his 2009 murder that the government would kill him. The Rajapaksa government denied the claim. A new post-mortem will be held to establish the cause of the death. That's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a good day.